Here at the auditorium in the Granary at Waterford's Museum of Treasures for this, the first of our two town hall meetings with the candidates. Just a reminder that the second of these meetings will be recorded tonight in the Town Hall Theatre in Dungarvan, and there will be another selection of candidates. We have 8 candidates here today, and they are Senator Paddy Coffey, Fine Gael, Seamus Ryan of Labour, Sinn Féin's David Clonnan, Independent candidate John Halligan, Independent candidate Joe Conway, Ben Nutty of Fisnua, Joe Tobin of the Workers' Party, and Jerry Kearsey, who's an independent candidate. And to put it mildly, today they're working hard for the money. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, our next question comes from the parent of a child attending grade school, Philip Baroon in Tramore, and he is John Breen. Your question, John.
There's already been a bit of reference to the importance of the school building programme in job creation. So, grade school Philip Baroon has been waiting for over 25 years for a permanent building. We've also been waiting over 4 years for a safe pedestrian crossing accessing the school at our current location. It's clear that inefficiencies in government departments and local authorities are one of the main reasons for this. So my question is, what are your proposals to make government departments and local authorities work more efficiently?
And we'll put that to Seamus Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. About a month ago, Brendan Howland published a whole series of reform proposals in both local government and indeed central government. Because we recognise the inefficiencies that are there at the moment, these have got to be tackled from the top down. And people spoke before about leadership, and we need to show leadership, and government needs to show leadership, and there needs to be leadership shown at local government level, where we can get local people involved in decisions that are being taken. For example, people will be aware of the community forum that's there, for example. We need to give more power to the community forum so that it can link in to local government. But also we need to deal with the issue of local government becoming just a talking shop. And we need to give more powers to our local government to deal with the issues that you spoke about. I mean, for a school to be waiting 20 years for a proper school building is just not acceptable. And I spoke earlier on about the government embarking on a school building programme. That needs to happen and can happen and will happen under a Labour government, if Labour are part of that government. And it can be done under a strategic investment bank, which I explained earlier, will provide funding for projects like that. But to come back to the local issues, I mean, you spoke about pedestrian crossing, that's a local council issue. However, there needs to be a lot more, if you like, joined up thinking between central government and local government to allow that to happen. And in our proposals that we put forward, we've allowed for that to happen. Brendan Howell, it's the most expansive document or exhaustive document in reform of government that has been published by any party.
Thank you, Seamus Ryan. As a former school principal, Joe Conway.
What I'm saying, well, I'm getting all sheets. My talkie lodger was the West Philip Baroon. Agus, the hun Fergunif Boon, Oil Doif. Agus, the Mutual of Girl, Agus, I sung in John in Kitchen. I'd just like to record my absolute support for this great school that I've had the pleasure of visiting on many occasions, and I often say to them down there in Philip Baroon that they're a victim of their own success, because it's such a wonderful school and there's such a wonderful atmosphere there, but they're still waiting for a quarter of a century, and they're not unusual in the Gael Scotland that they are discriminated against. And if it was a question of getting the finances to build it, it would be one thing. But last year we had the absolutely scandalous situation of 324 million from the Education Capital Fund going back unspent to the Department of Finance. And to find schools like this living in what can only be described as second-rate accommodation, and the RSI report has said that this has a major deficit on children's education, to be educated in poor conditions. But if the money wasn't there, it would be one thing. But to see an inefficient government sending 324 million back unspent when people like Gaelscoil in Tramore and other Gaelscoil, and indeed 50,000 children in this country of ours.
Okay, but what would you do about it?
Well, the whole thing is to get the Department of Education and their inspectorate and the people who are involved in the building section in Tullamore to get their act together and not have that scandalous situation when money is voted by the Department of Finance, and then it goes back unspent. And surely, any of us, if we wanted to have a productive household or a productive nation, we would ensure that our budgets are spent in the cases and in the causes for which that money is allotted. So it's just an efficiency.
Molly Coffey.
First of all, can I say I'm well aware of the situation with Philip Baroon and the Gael Skull. I've actually made representations to ministers that had an adjournment motion in the Shannon on that particular school. But it's not on its own. There's multiple schools right around this constituency, both secondary and primary, as I said, that are bound up in the school planning and building units of the Department of Education. Fine Gael wants to introduce efficiencies and streamline and introduce transparency on how those school allocations for capital spend are allocated. Because at the moment, the school planning unit hardly speaks to the school building unit, and neither of them will even meet with the boards of management. And it's very frustrating, especially when you hear, as Councillor Conway said, that there was a budget allocated in 2010 that wasn't fully spent. We've construction workers out of work, and here we have schools in Waterford that require investment. This needs to be tackled, and the Department of the Education and how it delivers these programmes needs to be tackled. And just very briefly on the pedestrian crossing, that is a local authority issue. And I have no problem in saying the local authority needs to do more with regard to school traffic safety. I don't think there was ever an audit carried out in every school in this country. It's something I was promoting as a councillor when I was on Waterford County Council. And I think it's something that it should be done in every single school, primary and secondary, in this county. And that would identify the problems and the hazards that you have identified.
Okay, thank you. John, your response to what you just heard, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, in relation to the budget that we know was not spent in 2010, what going forward is, what is the budget, and are you likely to fulfil?
No, I don't want to supplement your question, just are you happy with what you heard?
I am, but I suppose, as I say, the money that wasn't spent in 2010, what concerns me is what sort of budget is now available for the future.
All right, thank you very much, John, and John's a parent. Next up, we have a question from our next guest, and that's Noreen Healy-Magua of the Waterford Childcare Committee. So, Noreen, if you make yourself known.
Thank you very much. I'd like to pose a question to the political parties who are present today. Over the past 11 years, there have been many developments in the childcare sector. First of all, through the Equal Opportunities Childcare Programme for the infrastructural developments across the country, and more recently through the National Childcare Investment Programme, where there's been a massive expansion in the infrastructure and also through the support schemes of the free preschool year, the subvention scheme, and other schemes, including the Shield and Ashton frameworks for improving the quality of childcare.
Okay, the question is...
The childcare committees have continued to operate within local development structures and have operated in a flexible, adaptable, very cost-efficient manner. And I'd like to know from the parties, what direction do they see for the future evolving role of childcare committees and for the supports for the childcare sector generally?
John Hannigan.
Thanks, Billy. Well, first of all, I know that there are 33 committees set up throughout Ireland in childcare. The difficulty at present is that in Ireland, families spend about 29% of their income on childcare in Ireland, compared to 11% in France and 12% in Germany. So the difficulty there is that we actually enforce families into a degree of poverty where they have to have a childmind that they spend 29% of their income. And this hasn't changed. As a matter of fact, what has happened is that first of all, we affect the education process in the sense because lack of money prohibits proper education. We affect the family itself, the parent itself, who have less money to spend, have to find other methods of having their child minded through family members and so on. And also what we do is that long term, we do irreparable damage. And this has been seen right across Europe, that when if the state has a say in how children should be cared for, the state has to spend sufficient and compatible money to deal with how that's done. And this has not happened in Ireland. And there's another very relevant point on it, and that is this, that if you look at the statistics, and they are CSO statistics, the people that send their children to childcare, particularly single mothers.
Okay, that's
you find that because
can you answer the question?
Yes, the question
if
is,
elected to government, what do you see?
I think that absolutely a priority would be to put sufficient funding into childcare facilities, and also to subsidise families that send their children into childcare, because it prohibits them from working. What happens is that a high percentage. 22% left employment last year because they could not afford to send their child into childcare. That is damaging the economy. We have to subsidise families to pay for childcare, which is done in 11 other countries in Europe.
Okay, Seamus Ryan, Labour Party policy on this.
Yeah, just to say, Billy, that the Labour Party was the first party to propose the free universal year for preschool, and if in government we are committed to building on the 2010 early childhood scheme. Now, and I think that's very important because we see the education of children as a means of breaking the poverty cycle that's in this country, and for that reason we are committed to it. But can I just raise also another issue regarding the education?
Very briefly, Seamus.
And that's how our childcare workers are being treated. And I think the issue of childcare workers needs to be addressed in this country. Their rights and their pay, and the fact that here they're being left go in the summertime without any pay, that's something that can't continue and has to be addressed.
Okay, we'll take our next break. Thank you all very much. We'll be back in a moment.